Hey there! Do you all like reading books? Ria has decided to start reading a new book, and guess what? She came across this book called Making Connections. It sounds interesting. Let's check it out. What do you think this book is about? From the title, it has something to do with connecting things. Let's see with what. One can make connections to a text in different ways. Very often, when we read books, we start associating it with our own experiences or things we would have read or seen in a movie, or it could be happening out there in our world. So, knowingly or unknowingly, we all are making connections while reading a text. Bet you thought one can connect only by communicating. No one would have ever thought of making connections to a text in a book. Well, that is possible, and it can be done in three ways. The first way is text to self. We connect the text to our personal experiences. Let us look at an example of making connections in this way. The character of Goldilocks reminds me of my curious side that would want to explore everything when I was a child. Voila! That was a connection. Next is text to text connection. This is when you connect the text to something that you have read previously. It could be something that you would have studied in some other subject as well. For example, the character in this book is very similar to the one mentioned in the book I read last summer. Or, the way Ganga is described so beautifully in this book reminds me of the information that I read in my geography book. The last way of making connections is from text to world, and you must have already guessed what that means. It is when we connect the text to the things that are actually happening in the real world. For example, this book is about the war that took place in the year 1906 and how it impacted the world. So Ria has come towards the end of the first chapter in this book. She hopes that chapter helps you make connections the next time you read any text. However, do you know how making connections helps a reader? Looks like Ria is going on to the second chapter that talks about this. Okay, let's read these points. It prevents the reader from becoming bored or disinterested. It gives clarity to the reader, therefore making them more engaged. It gives purpose to the reader while reading. It helps to understand the character in the story, their feelings, and what leads them to behave or act in a certain way. Last but not the least, it gives the responsibility to the reader of not just reading the text but getting actively involved in what is happening in the story. Whoa! This really does make reading a lot more fun. And it also helps one understand each character, their story, and their actions better. Ria is going to try making these connections in a book that she is currently reading. What about you? Why don't you also try doing the same? See you soon!